Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Salim Akhtar Malik, your host on the Observation Post channel. This channel is dedicated to discussing national and international affairs. Before we proceed further, I would request you to please subscribe to my channel. It is free. Today, we will discuss while the Kashmiris suffer, should Pakistan militarily intervene to support them? October 1962, a night before attacking Indian-held positions all along the disputed China-India border, the Chinese government, through its ambassador in Pakistan, had conveyed to President Ayub Khan about the impending Chinese offensive against India. It was the Chinese way of obliquely conveying that Pakistan, if it wanted, may exploit the situation while India was on the ropes. Reportedly, Ayub Khan ignored the Chinese message. His critics accuse to this day Ayub of throwing away an opportunity to kick India out of Jammu and Kashmir. More than half a century later, while the Indian Army's neck is again being throttled in eastern Ladakh by the Chinese Dragon, there are similar voices, including those of prominent diplomats and the president of Azad Kashmir, not to miss this opportunity and throw the Indian Army out of the disputed state by military force. Now, Ayub Khan ignoring the Chinese message is the myth upon which we Pakistanis have been brought up. Let us investigate this myth. What inhibited Ayub Khan from joining hands with China in 1962? In a state of panic, Nehru wrote a letter to Kennedy, which was hand delivered by the then Indian ambassador to the United States on November 19. In the letter states Riedel, a former CIA operative, Nehru was asking Kennedy to join the war against China by partnering in an air war to defeat the PLA, that is the People's Liberation Army of China. It was a momentous request that the Indian Prime Minister was making. Just a decade after American forces had reached a ceasefire with the Chinese Communist forces in Korea, Indian Prime Minister was asking the American president to join a new war against Communist China. On his part, President Kennedy, in a letter to Ayub Khan, had made it clear that he would regard any Pakistani involvement in the conflict as an act of war. Adding further, Kennedy had likened the US stakes in the Sino-India War to those in the Cuban Missile Crisis and the threat of a nuclear war with the Soviet Union. Riedel mentions in his book that on October 28, 1962, the day before former Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru asked for American military help, then United States Ambassador of Pakistan, Walter McConney, met with the Pakistani ruler, General Muhammad Ayub Khan. The ambassador urged him to send assurances to Nehru that Pakistan would not take advantage of India's war with India's war with China. Pakistan was militarily and economically not strong enough to deal with Kennedy's arm twisting and had to back down. According to Riedel, multitasking at its best, former United States President John F. Kennedy had played a decisive role in forestalling a Pakistani attack on India during the 1962 Sino-India War. Even as Pakistan was capable of taking advantage of the situation to take control of Indian occupied Kashmir, Pakistan was clearly capable of initiating war with India, but decided in 1962 not to take advantage of India's vulnerability. Nehru asked for 12 squadrons of the United States Air Force, as well as 2 squadrons of B-47 bombers to strike in Tibet. A minimum of 12 squadrons of supersonic all-weather fighters are essential. We have no modern radar cover in the country. The United States Air Force personnel will have to man these fighters and radar installations while our personnel are being trained, Nehru wrote in the letter. As Chinese army reached its claim line, the People's Liberation Army did not advance further, and on 19th November, Zhou Enlai declared a unilateral ceasefire to start on midnight 21st November. It must be remembered that the Chinese ceasefire going back 20 kilometers from their claim line in Ladakh and withdrawal behind the McMahon line in Nefa was due to the Chinese calculations that the United States might interfere in the war on behalf of India. Is an all-out war with India the appropriate solution to the Jammu and Kashmir dispute? Now, both Pakistan and India lack the conventional punch to knock out the other. With both the belligerents being nuclear powers, a limited war under a nuclear overhang is possible. That too only after the enemy has been attrited enough not to respond further. If India is successful in generating mass unrest in Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, it can, in a limited war, invade Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. Indian-sponsored separatist movements are going on in Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan since long, but they do not have the popular support to foment a rebellion. These movements, like the raw-generated insurgency in Balochistan and the erstwhile federally administered tribal areas of Pakistan, can cause pinpricks but not result in India hacking off these areas from Pakistan. What is happening in the Indian illegally usurped Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, though, is diametrically different from Pakistan administered Kashmir. There is an almost 3 decades long freedom movement which, despite the Indian high-handedness, refuses to die. What the Pakistan army needs to do is to hold the line of control with force and determination. Pakistan's strategy, it appears, is to let the Indian army fight and remain embroiled with the Kashmiri freedom fighters. During all this time, Pakistan will keep providing all sorts of non-kinetic support to the freedom fighters. Pakistan army will militarily intervene at an appropriate time. The time has not yet come. This talk has been referenced on Riedel's book, John Fitzgerald Kennedy's Forgotten Crisis, Tibet, the CIA and the Sino-Indian War, published by Brookings Institute. Thanks for watching the observation post, and be seeing you. Bye-bye.